Hey team, this is Jen Young here. I'm a facilitator and an event host who is passionate about creating intentional, high energy spaces where women can reconnect with themselves and each other through real, honest conversations. Right now, I'm hosting a series called The Power of Now, and she is back, baby, because we are officially in our health is wealth era. Now, these aren't just events, they're experiences. They're electric gatherings of women who are ready to be bold, be present, and to take their power back in real time. The power of now is a call to action, to stop waiting for the perfect time and to start living with bold, aligned intention right here, right now. Our next event is called Ignite Your Mornings, and I've invited none other than our routine queen, Kristen Woodford, to lead us through a powerful and practical session. Kristen's here to help us explore what intentional time in our mornings can do for your energy, your focus, and your sense of control throughout the day. You'll leave with real tools to create morning routines that work for you, one that's doable, aligned, and energizing. So you're invited June 12th to join us that evening for the Power of Now Ignite Your Mornings. Let's rise with intention together.
Hi, I'm Kristen Woodford, the Routine Queen. Podcast host, keynote speaker, and motivator extraordinaire, I help uplevel women's lives one healthy habit and mindful day at a time. I wasn't always a fan of routines and early mornings, and spent most of my life feeling that although life was great, there seemed to be something that was missing. I was missing a piece of my spark, and over the years, I have built a foundation of healthy daily habits and rituals that created my own secret sauce for feeling the best I've ever felt. I realized that the secret had been right there inside of me the whole time. If you feel like your spark is more of a pilot light, then this podcast is for you. Throughout the podcast, we will cover all areas of life, including the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's time to move from feeling like you're just trying to keep up with to-do lists and into feeling like you control your day and ultimately your life. Increase your energy, be present in the moment, and find joy in all moments of life throughout the day. Thank you for joining on this journey. Now let's see how we can uplevel today. This is the Routine Queen podcast, healthy habits and mindful living.
Hello, welcome to today. I am Kristen, your routine queen, and today we have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Nicole Crone. Nicole is a trained professional and coactive coach and trained NLP practitioner. She obtained her coach training from CTI. Alongside Kaila Pilecki, Nicole co-founded My Aligned Purpose in 2020 to support women entrepreneurs. Nicole is our Aries generator with sacral authority and human design, aka a fiery idea machine. You can't resist coffee, French fries, Thai food, and anything in the apple cinnamon category. She's been filling journals since she was 12 and has tons of them in her office that hold all of her life's dreams, secrets, and thoughts. Nicole, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Kristen. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. So we've known each other for a few years now, and I would say that hands down, you are one of the people who has been the most pivotal in my life in the past few years with regards to like mindset and shifts and all of the stuff, the podcast creation. And so I am very much looking forward to today's discussion.
Oh, thank you. I was telling my husband that I was going to be on your podcast today, and I was like, it's really amazing to see from the moment, like I can remember your very first DM of you messaging me and telling me how the connection was made to seeing your evolution. And I also feel like we all have just grown up together over the years. Kayla and I were chatting about that with somebody else who's been with us for a few years. And it feels like we're all growing up together and seeing what each other are doing. And yeah, I feel really honored to be on your show. I know that it's doing really well. And I think that's because this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Thank you. I have a ton of questions to ask, and I know that we're gonna get into some really good stuff. But first, I need to know, what is something that brings you complete and utter joy?
My dog, Louis, he's a black lab. He's 90 pounds. he, honest to God, thinks maybe he's 5 or 10. He's always trying to like get in people's laps. And like when I walk in the door, he stands up. He's like the same height as me, gives me full body hug, like both paws on my shoulders, nuzzles into my neck. Yeah, I can't imagine a life without dogs, but especially without him.
Is he beside you right now?
He's not. He's out where the food is. Very,
Okay.
very lab-like.
Mine is like laid right by my feet. She's the opposite. She's tiny and just this little like fluff ball. But yeah, she's been really close this morning.
Mm, they're the best.
Yes. Nicole, can you give us, I mean, we did a bit of an intro, but can you tell us a little bit about you, whatever you want us to know? So how you got here. We'll get into NLP as well, but tell us about you.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how far to go back, but I feel like a typical kind of starting place that I often share with people is, I can, from as early as I can remember being a teenager, one of the first times I went to the movies with my friends, and we went to go see The Beach. So I'm aging myself there with Leonardo DiCaprio. And I had never traveled anywhere with my family on an airplane, that's for sure, but really not outside of Nova Scotia, where I grew up. We went to PEI, New Brunswick, like went around the Maritimes, camped a lot and stayed in cabins and with family, but I'd never seen anything outside of Eastern Canada. And I saw that movie and instantly it did something for me. And I mean, talk about NLP, it placed an image in my mind that I couldn't not see anymore. And I grew up in a small town. I didn't know other people that were traveling. So it's not like, I felt like I was missing out on something that other people had. I was just starting to realize, like, oh, there's a really big world out there. And I am definitely drawn to the beach. Even though I grew up near the beach, I'm drawn to tropical beaches and warmth and sunshine. And so that planted a seed, and I didn't realize it until I got older. But as I was growing up and becoming a teenager or like moving through my teens, I was thinking a lot about traveling and like seeing how, young people, whatever we want to say that age is, were being nomadic and like they had their backpack on and they were just free and going. And then, like, the opposite side of the spectrum to this is that, again, I had nobody to show me that they were doing this. I didn't know anybody that was traveling. And all my friends were choosing to go to university for school, and school was like relatively easy for me. It's not like I loved it, I didn't hate it. I was there to be social 100%, and I got good grades. And so all of my teachers were like, "Well, you should definitely, be a nurse or be a lawyer or be a teacher, like be the typical things." I'm like, "I don't know, I kind of want to go to the beach in Thailand." Um, but I chickened out and I didn't follow my intuition. My parents didn't pressure me, but I just like didn't follow my intuition is I guess the simplest way to put it. And so I applied to university, the same one that all my friends were going to. I think like out of my grad class of 300 people, 100 of us went to the same university.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like 2 hours away in the city. And while I loved my university experience, it was like some of the funnest years of my life. I was doing miserable in school. I was failing. I was getting letters saying I was going to be, you know, suspended for a year if I didn't pick my grades up. I just wanted nothing to do with it. And I thought, like, what am I going to do with a bachelor's of arts degree anyway? Like, nothing. And so, anyways, I completed my degree because that's what I thought I should do. Graduated. I proved myself right. I'm like, well, I'm no more employable now, and I just have a lot of debt. And me and my girlfriends decided that we would move to, we thought Banff. We get on an airplane, told my mom, I was like, I'm going to move to Alberta. I'd never been past Ontario before, like visiting my aunts and uncles in Ontario. And she was like, okay. And what are you going to do? And we're like, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. So get on an airplane and fly out to, I think I'm going to Banff. And we meet people and they're like, you should actually go to Canmore. Never heard of Canmore in my life. So end up in Canmore and I'm meeting all of these people who have been traveling all around the world. They've been super nomadic. Um, they've been to Thailand, they've been to Australia, they've been to Vietnam, they've been to South America. And I was hearing the coolest stories. And again, it's like sometimes we just need proof of what's possible. It's like I knew it was possible to get on an airplane. I just did it, but I didn't leave my country. And I still went with friends. And so I started to think a little bit more about traveling, and then I really started to travel, and it opened up my eyes to just like what a big world is out there and how freeing it is and who I really am and what lights me up. And then I got scared again. Then I got scared around the age of 25. I had a really fun, great time waitressing and being in the hospitality industry, and it provided a fun life for that time. And then I kind of panicked because everybody, most people around me, my friends that I grew up with, were really starting to settle down. They were, getting their big girl jobs and getting their raises and their offices and thinking about starting families and getting married. And I was like, uh-oh, I'm behind. I'm behind. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm failing. And if I don't start thinking about doing these things now, it'll be too late, like at 25 years old.
Which is
So
crazy.
it's
I mean, you're not crazy, but
I
looking
know.
back
If
on
I
it
could
now.
go back and give myself a shake, I'd be like, oh my God. But, we live and we learn. So I was like, well, I guess I'll do the thing that everybody told me to always do. I'll go become a teacher. I'm sure that I can make that happen. So I had to apply to go back to university for another 2 years and get my Bachelor of Education. I did that. I graduated. I got offered a permanent position in Northern Alberta. And I really thought, like, this is it. Oh my gosh, this is it. I'm going to be making like $80,000 a year. I've got my own classroom. I'm going to have benefits and a pension. I called up Honda in Grand Prairie, Alberta, and I was like, I'm a brand new teacher. What can I get qualified for? Give me your best car off the lot. I was like, this is it. I've made it. All this hard work of 6 years of university and over the course of time. And I was with somebody and we were engaged. And on paper, it was like, okay, I did the right things. And I was so miserable. I was so miserable. Instagram wasn't really a thing at the time. I think it was more just for filters. So I don't exactly remember what I was using, but something on my phone, maybe YouTube or maybe just Google. And I would like Google image Thailand and Australia and Vietnam and all these places again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? And then I started to imprint in my mind that, like, this is it. This is just my reality and there's no getting out of it. Nobody else I know is getting out of it or escaping, so to speak. And then, 3 years into that teaching position, my what was going to be wedding got canceled, which is a total blessing. Um, that relationship ended, and I went away with my sister, and we were in Vegas, and we were by the pool. And she said, you can't go back up north for another year. You can't do that. And she said, I'm going to be honest with you. We're all really worried. And I was like, oh, I thought I was like hiding it so well. And she was like, you are not the person that we've known our whole life. I was partying a lot on the weekend, like just totally trying to numb with alcohol, and then wake up on Monday morning and be like, I can do this. And I was a fantastic teacher, but I was not happy. And she was just like, why don't you take a year off teaching and go visit your friend Jade, who lives in Australia? She met her now Aussie husband when we lived in Canmore. Um, and I said, I can't give up my teaching job. And she said, yeah, you can. You can. And if you want it back, you can just get another one. And I was like, I can't do that, Christine. Like, I will be such a failure. Everybody will be like so concerned for me that I'm walking away from the thing and blah, 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 blah. And she was like, I think people are going to be more concerned if you keep living your life the way that you are. And thank God for my sister for that moment. And so I pondered it. And that was a weekend in March 2016. The following weekend, I met up with my sister and all my family again in Dominican because we were there for what was supposed to be my wedding. And so all my side of the family still went, obviously not his. And so we're all there. I had never picked up a personal development book in my life. And I'm in the airport and I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, I think people like read for fun. So maybe I'll get this book. And there was a yellow cover. It was Jen Sincero's book, How to Be a Badass. Not how to be a badass with money, just how to be a badass.
Yeah.
And I was like, that sounds fun. Maybe I'll be one of those people that like reads on the beach. So I grabbed the book. I'm in Dominican. A week has passed since my sister planted that seed in my mind. I finish the book and then I tell my whole family, I'm going to go back to my teaching job. It's now April and I'm going to resign. I'm going to complete like these last 3 months and then I'm going to resign and I'm going to move to Australia. And I was 30 at the time. I had just turned 30 in Vegas. And everybody was so happy for me. Everybody was like, yes, do this. This is exactly what you need. And I think that they thought like, it'll just be a year. It'll just be a year. And then I moved to Australia for a year. That completely changed my life. It opened my eyes up to personal development, self-development, coaching, plant medicine, spirituality, like you name it. It just like unlocked so much for me. And I got to finally go to Thailand. I went for my 31st birthday and traveled all through there and Bali. And it was everything that I had wanted since I was probably like 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, but just kept being like, that's not the right path. That's not the right path. And then I finally get there and the path finally starts to reveal itself. And, you know, here I am pretty much a decade later. I'm 39 now. And I, you know, moved back from Australia to Canada. I chose British Columbia. Didn't know anybody here. I didn't have a place to live. I didn't have a job, but I was like, I'm going to make it work because I want to be near my sister. And I just kept following the breadcrumbs. And there were so many hard times where I was like, I should just go back to teaching. And I dabbled in it for 1 year, the 2018, 2019 school year. I was like, it'll just be so much easier if I just get a teaching job. So I got my license in BC, got that teaching job. By the time Christmas break rolled around, I was like, I hate this. Like, and I don't use the word hate too often, but I was like, I do not like being told where to be and when to be there and how long to be there and when I can and can't take time off and how much I'm going to be paid. I was just like, everything about it was making me feel like I was crawling out of my skin. And so I completed the contract. And then I said to myself, I made a commitment to myself, never again. I didn't renew my teacher's license in 2019 and I've never looked back and started My Line Purpose. I met Kaila at the end of 2019, 2020. We started My Line Purpose and the letter came in the mail. Do you want to renew your teacher's license? And I was like, should I do it just as a backup? And she said, no. So we made a commitment to go all in on My Line Purpose. And here we are 5 years later.
Inspiring women and people in general all over the world to just like literally all over the world come into your events and being part of your community. And there's something so magical about, you know, speaking as someone that's in your community, you always talk about putting yourself in the right room. And for one, it's like getting clear on what you want, but then surrounding yourself with people that will help raise you up. And it's so powerful. And whether you're looking to make huge transformational change in your life or just get some more enjoyment out of it every day, I would say that it's just very magical being around people like that.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And again, it's like those people who will, if you don't have the belief in yourself, it's like just being around their energy and seeing how they believe in you or seeing what they believe for themselves. And then realizing like, oh, that could actually be possible for me. It really is so important to put yourself in rooms where it feels like maybe it feels like they've got it all together, which nobody does, you know. Let's reveal that right now. Nobody has it all together. But what they might tell you is like the hard things they had to do or the things that they peeled back or removed or the boundaries they set to make it so that they could live a more freeing life. And you have to choose to put yourself in those environments, in those rooms, or else you're never going to level up. Again, the concept of like personal development books and coaching never crossed my mind as a teacher because it was not the environment I was in. I was in the environment of the staff room and students and curriculum and secondary education and higher education and climbing the corporate ladder. Like I didn't have anybody say, do you know that you could do this in a different way? Do you know that you could make your own money? Do you know that these books will have you thinking in a different way? I didn't have anybody doing that. It was like by fluke of following the breadcrumbs.
So many questions. I wanted to say, so just a couple weeks ago, I was listening to Peter Crone on the podcast. Anyway, I'm a new fan of his, but he was explaining it as like you can live in an apartment, in a 400 square foot apartment, and you can make it the most beautiful space that the world has ever seen, and so luxurious and so beautiful. But at the end of the day, it's still 400 square feet. And you don't know what is exactly like what you were just saying. You don't know what else is possible until you start breaking down those walls, which would be a lot of that like mindset and NLP stuff. And then all of a sudden you're in this 60,000 square foot space that you didn't know existed because you don't know until you know. And it's having that
Exactly.
trust to break down those walls without knowing what's on the other side. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It really requires a level of self-trust and the belief that like it's going to work out. It will work out. We don't know the how, we don't know the when, but it will always work out if you choose following your intuition. But if you're like, well, I've been, staying in this relationship that doesn't feel good or staying in this job that doesn't feel good and it's not working out. It's like, well, yeah, it's not going to work out if intuitively you have that gut feeling of like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And that's different than being uncomfortable, right? Like uncomfortableness is okay because then it leads us to growth. But resisting what you know you really want and hoping that it will all work out, I just think like the math doesn't math. It doesn't line up.
It doesn't. And yet it's mind boggling how I think it's a lack of knowledge, right? How people just continue on with their day and their to do list, and they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. They're just doing it because they just are. And it's, and they just don't think about it. And so whether it's putting your kids in a bazillion activities because you think that's what needs to be done and just, you feel frazzled because you're not intentional about what you're doing.
Exactly.
It all comes down to intention too.
Yeah, it does. It comes down to intention. It comes down to belief. It comes down to trust. And I think, and it's all self. It's like
Yes.
believing in yourself, trusting yourself, intention for yourself, for your day.
I had asked you before we met if there was anything that you wanted to go deep on, because it's my mission to open up the world one conversation at a time and to talk about things that maybe we don't get to on surface level. And I'm going to read your response because I loved it. So I think it's a good just place to drop it.
Okay.
And you said that you believe our mind is the number one factor of living life on purpose or living a life that feels like prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I get goosebumps when I hear that because sometimes we get trapped, or what we perceive to be as trapped, in a life that feels chaotic, and we just get to the end of the day exhausted and depleted for like a few spare moments on our phone to escape, and then to wake up the next day and do it all over again. And we feel like we have no choice.
Right.
But we do, and we're actually creating everything that we have, whether we realize it or not. So can you speak to that? And if someone is listening and they're like, okay, I would like to change something, but what does that mean? How do I start?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the reason that this is something that I feel comfortable going deep on is because I've lived it. And I think we've all lived it. I've lived in a place where just like I mentioned, if we go back to like 2014 to 2016, ooh, that was not a good place in my mind. And, you know, if you weren't inside my mind, you might not really know what was going on. Sure, I guess my close family were picking up on things, but for the people that I was hanging out with every day and like my teacher colleagues and that sort of thing, nobody really had an indication of like, I'm feeling like I'm trapped. I feel like I'm in a prison in my own mind because our mind, everything is happening, our thoughts are happening internally, and people can't see it. And you can put on a facade. You can't fake your energy, but you can fake showing up like, face done, hair done, go to the activities, shake hands, smile, do all of the things. And I've lived that life where externally I've been like, okay, maybe if I just keep pretending like this is going to get better, then it will get better, knowing that internally, and this is where I think NLP is so cool. Internally, when I closed my eyes and evaluated my present moment, my day to day, I was like, ugh, I don't like this. And then if I thought about extending how today looked into the next day, over the course of the year, and then continued on, I got freaked out. I was like, oh my God, I cannot live my life like this. And my escape happened in my mind. I was like, okay, what do I really want? Like, what feels opposite to this feeling? What feels freeing? What feels exciting? What feels adventurous? Those are like a lot of my values. And then again, close my eyes and I'd go back to this whole like travel, beach, um, living life on my terms. And that was all just imagery that I saw in my mind. I didn't get there yet. So I was able to access my mind and go to a place of like, when I'm living that way, that will feel purposeful. And then I think for a lot of people, you get to this place where you realize I'm the only one who is going to be responsible out of which thought I choose. So am I going to wake up today and envision that the whole day is going to go like this, and then I'm going to feel shitty, I'm going to feel like I'm in my own prison? Or am I going to wake up today and I'm going to set the intention and envision that my whole day is going to go like this, which feels a whole lot more purposeful? And you've heard me say it, Kristen, and I've said it many times. I'm a big believer that you think thoughts, and if you think them on repeat, then you're going to create a belief. And a belief is like so pivotal for how we live our days and how we live our lives. So I'm creating a new belief system. I didn't realize it at the time, but like when I would allow my thoughts to go to when I'm traveling, when I'm at the beach, when I'm walking every day, when I'm in the sunshine, that is going to be the highest version of me. I'm going to be vibrating higher. I'm going to be feeling better. I'm sure that wasn't my terminology, but that's what I was feeling. And I allowed myself to think that enough to then instill the belief of like, that is the key to me feeling better. The belief is that I've got to live my life that way, not this way. And then when you have a belief system, you take actions on that. If I was continuing to wake up and seeing all of my days go forward in a job I didn't like, in a relationship I didn't like, and so on and so forth, a lifestyle that wasn't servicing me, then the action I would have taken would be to apply for another year of teaching. But because I started to think so much in these other images and this other way and create new beliefs, I took that action. I made that choice to say, I am going to take a year off. It's terrifying. I don't know what's going to happen. All my other friends are having babies. I'm 30 years old and I'm going to move across the world on my own, meet up with a friend, but and make this happen. And then I think that our actions reflect our reality reflects our actions. So then all of a sudden I'm in Australia. I'm like, holy shit, I just made this happen off of choosing to think differently, believe differently, act differently, and then move forward. And so for anybody who's listening and they're like, I want to make a change. How do you make a change? What does that look like? I often say start with your mind. Start with like, if you can't visualize up what feels good for you, because our mind works so powerfully with images, then I would curate images that are going to help you see a different thing. So if you can't just like close your eyes and imagine like an ideal day or an ideal relationship or job or whatever it might be, if you're like, I can't see it, then I would start to put keywords into the old World Wide Web. I would go into Pinterest or Google Images or Canva or something like that. And I would write in things that you like. If you like the beach, if you like hiking, if you like being in a cabin, if you like journaling, whatever it is. And I would just put those keywords in and I would gather those images. And whether you make it the background on your phone or your computer, or you print it off and make a vision board, or you go really nerdy and get into making a mind movie or whatever works for you, then you're starting to imprint new imagery on your mind. And so that is going to help you make a new choice. But oftentimes people are like, I don't have time to do that. I can't make that happen. And I'm like, you're imprinting images in your mind all day, every day. Every single time you pick up that phone, you're looking at somebody else's life. You open Instagram, you're looking at their image. You open TikTok, you're looking at their image. You turn on the TV, that's their image. So I'm kind of not here for the excuse anymore of I don't have time to put positive, inspiring, feel-good images in my own mind. If you don't have time for that, that's you making an excuse that you don't want to move forward with your dream life.
Because you're putting images in your mind regardless.
You are, yeah.
100%.
All day, every day.
And so why not put images in there that make you feel good?
Right. And every image creates a feeling, and every feeling is attached to an image, right? Like, if somebody who suffers with a lot of anxiety or depression, oftentimes if you talk that through with them, or if they're going through a diagnosis, it will 99% of the time come from a past experience. And so they're describing a past experience and they're describing a memory. They're seeing something in their mind. And that thought that they're seeing, whether it was a fight or a breakup or just, something really terrible that happened to them, that image is being replayed in their mind and they might not even know it. And their subconscious mind, their body is like, ooh, don't like that. It's that powerful in the same way that you could pull up, maybe you had like an incredible birth experience, or maybe you married the love of your life and it was the best day ever, or you finally arrived in that dream location and it's imprinted in your mind. That image creates a feeling. So if you're like feeling shitty and woe is me and down on yourself and you want to feel better, then look at different images in your mind. Allow your mind and your body to get on board instead of like, I want to do something different and I'm going to pick up my phone and scroll and look at somebody else's life instead.
Mhm. I was actually just talking to my brother yesterday and he gave me this quote. It's someone else's. I don't know where it came from, but it said, did you really have a bad day or did you have a bad 5 minutes? And then milk that for the rest of the day. Yes. And your body doesn't know what's actually really happening in this moment. So if you're recalling a memory, it thinks it's happening all over again.
Absolutely. And it's so fascinating to me how NLP works in that what one singular word can create an array of different images for people. And the most common example that I will often say is if I was to say dog or tree, and there was more than just you and I on the screen, but if I'm saying dog, what's the first image of a dog that you think of?
My dog.
Yeah. And I think of my dog. And most people think of their own dog. And if they don't have dogs, they might think of their childhood dog, or they might think of the most common dog that they see on TV or whatever it is. And none of us are wrong and none of us are right. It's just that one singular word. Our mind is like a Rolodex of images. And that one singular word before you can even think, your subconscious mind is like, oh, I've got a memory attached to that dog. Got it. You say tree and it's like, I might think of an oak tree and you might think of a palm tree and somebody might think of a willow tree. And we don't know why maybe we don't know why that's the tree that we're choosing, but your body knows because at one point in time, you attached a memory to that or a feeling or some sort of association. And then all of a sudden you hear that word, it triggers an image, creates a feeling. You're like, oh, and that's how we go throughout our life. And think about I can't remember exactly what it is, but I've heard before that our mind creates maybe 70,000 thoughts a day.
Mm-hmm.
So if all of those thoughts are attached to images and those images are creating feelings, don't you want to be in control or responsible for as much of that as you can?
It's a lot of feelings.
It's a lot of feelings. Yeah.
What I found when I started doing the work and kind of from the very beginning, I didn't know what NLP was before I met you, and you took us through a number of exercises over the years. But what I found for myself too is honestly the pure joy that started to stem out of small moments in everyday life. And so I went from a life that I really liked, there was nothing wrong and I had everything,
Mhm.
that I had wanted, but something felt like it was missing. And then all of a sudden I started doing this inner work,
Mm.
and from the outside looking in, everything was the same. But from the inside, it was like life changing. And all of a sudden I was driving in traffic, on my commute. And I just was having the perfect time, just enjoying, I don't know, the green light, or like all
Mm.
these things were popping into my head that were good and that I was grateful for. And it just was a very different, I wouldn't say that I was a negative person before that at all, but it just opened up things in such a different way. And so all of a sudden, instead of having to rely on like vacations or bigger moments or something that was exciting, I was truly joyful just because. And I think
Mm.
a lot of that comes from this work too.
Absolutely. And I think that if, when people are hearing that you say that and they're like, I want that, or why can't I tap into that, or what does that feel like? I think the one of the easiest ways to begin that is truly to start a gratitude practice.
Mhm,
Like to just notice like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not homeless. I'm not out there sleeping in the cold, in the rain, searching for food, lacking love and connection. Like I've got a roof over my head. I am safe. I am loved. I've got food in the fridge. I've got water." When it comes down to those like core things that you start to realize, and anybody listening to this, I mean, if you've got a phone or a computer, you've got a roof over your head. And you've got these core things and it's like, "Oh yeah, right. Like I actually have it so good." And then you get into the little glimmers that add on to that. Like there is not a day that coffee doesn't make my gratitude list. Not a day that like Louis does not make my gratitude list. Like you get to add in all these little things that you're grateful for. And gratitude is just like has such a high vibration. And then that high vibration is magnetic. And then all of a sudden you're driving in the car and you're like, life's pretty good. I'm
mhm.
healthy. I'm here. I'm on this side of the earth. Like it's not that bad.
So when you started, like when things started shifting for you, and I'm going to make an assumption and say that the more you started focusing on yourself, the less the opinions and everything of other people, the less all of that mattered. Is that correct?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The more I started focusing on myself. And honestly, I this is not something I've ever reflected on until you've just asked me this question right now, but I do know that the time when I changed the most was when I moved to Australia. And so I'm sure we could factor many things in there. I was in the sunshine all year and I didn't have like a job to go to. I was waitressing here and there, teaching some yoga. But I think maybe one of the biggest things that allowed me to go more inwards and focus less outwards was I actually like physically distanced myself from a lot of people who knew me. And I'm not saying that that's what people have to do, but just in you asking that question, I'm like, oh, I I was so far away from everybody. I was on the other side of the world. I got to just start over and live a new life. Nobody knew who I was, like on the streets, passing by. And like, of course, I, stayed talking to my friends and family on FaceTime, just like 16 hours ahead. And there was just like this time difference. And I feel like I really got to drop into, oh, yeah, like it doesn't matter what other people think because it literally isn't going to affect me here. It was like I put myself in some sort of bubble. I don't know, that kinda comes up for me. Maybe you have to really assess also, like, how much time you're spending with the people that aren't supporting your growth.
Okay, so another question. When you are following your own path, whatever that means for each person, does it get lonely sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think entrepreneurship can be one of the, like, loneliest buckets that people raise their hand and join up for. And I think that that's not I think, I know that that's why Kayla and I created My Line Purpose right off the hop. We were like, we're not regular coaches, we're cool coaches. No, I'm just kidding, but
You are.
we both did our coach training and separately, she did Royal Roads, I did CTI. We met, we talked about the same thing. Like learning to be a coach was really cool. We didn't learn how to run a business. learning to be a coach is really cool, but not having a community isn't the vibe. And so most coaches, when you go through coach training, you're trained to be a coach one-on-one. So you're like in a silo all day with like individual people on calls or Zoom or coffee shops or whatever it is. And there's no connection, there's no community. And that is super isolating and it is lonely. And especially if you're like, you know, a solo entrepreneur, maybe if you're on a coaching team or something, it's less lonely because you might have a team meeting or something like that. But I think choosing to go your own route and like, especially go into entrepreneurship, yeah, it's absolutely going to be lonely unless you choose to say, I have to find a community immediately right off the hop and then just solve that problem. But I also think the hardest 6 months of my entire life, like been here for like 40 years, the hardest 6 months were the first 6 months I moved back to Canada. When I arrived in Victoria, which is now where I live, and I love my life here, and I'm so happy that I chose here. There was something here that pulled me here. I got here and I was like, ooh, this is it. And I moved in with people that I found on Craigslist. They were like, yeah, we've got a bed and a spare room. I was like, cool. I've got a backpack of summer clothes from Australia. Thanks for taking me in. And then my very first job that I got here was, again, I found it off maybe Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or something. And it was teaching English to overseas kids as a second language, as like a summer camp job. So I was like, okay, I've got a foot in the door. I can teach English, do the summer camp, live in this house where people don't know me. But I had no money left. I spent all my money while I was overseas. And I came back here, and Victoria is, I think, the third most expensive city in Canada. It's like Toronto, Vancouver, Victoria. And I was struggling so much financially. And again, I'm 31, and all my friends actually do have kids now and have settled down and bought homes. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm renting a room with these strangers and I have roommates. It's like I'm back in like my college days. And I'm trying to find a job that will pay my bills. And I didn't have a car. I sold the car that I got at Grand Prairie Honda. I sold that 2 days before I moved to Australia. I didn't have a car. I felt trapped. I felt helpless. I felt broke. I felt lonely. And it's pretty cliquey here too. That's what I've learned over the 8 years that I've lived in Victoria. And lots of people say that it's a cliquey city until you literally find your right people. And I couldn't afford to do anything. So I was like, shit, like this is hard. And there were a few times where I called my sister, thank God for my sister again. And I'd be crying my eyes out, like, this is so hard. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, do I have to move back to Alberta and teach? Or do I have to move back to Nova Scotia and live with mom and dad? Like, why is this so hard? And she was just like, I don't know. You have the choice if you do want to go back to teaching or go back to mom and dad. Like, what's keeping you there? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what's keeping me here. I want to be near my sister. She lives in Seattle, so we're like a ferry ride away. And those moments of it being so hard and so lonely pushed me to be like, what do I really want? And I have this photo that pops up in my memories every year. So I moved to Victoria in July of 2017. And around October, I walked down to the beach. I was by myself. I had just called my sister. I was crying. I was like, I'm so broke. Like, I need you to send me money. I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. And I saw this seagull on the rock, and lots of people that know me deeply know that a seagull is my nanny. And so I saw this seagull, and I sat there and I just looked at the seagull and I was like, okay, I'm going to just ask for what I want. I'm just going to be like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say it out loud, what I want. Like, what do I really want? And I don't know that I'd done that before. And I was saying, like, I want opportunities and I want to teach yoga and I want to make more money and I want to find friends and all of these sorts of things. And I had just gotten hired on at Lululemon. But again, it was like a minimum wage job. Certainly wasn't making me feel abundant. But the job at Lululemon, they started to outsource me to, like, hey, there's this event happening. Will you be the yoga teacher? Because there was no yoga teachers that worked at Lulu, but I had got my yoga teacher training like back in 2012. And I was like, okay. So then I started to meet friends in the yoga community. So I was like, okay, this is fun. And now, like, a lot of my close girlfriends that I have in Victoria are ones that I met 7 or 8 years ago in yoga studios and in yoga classes. Um, but what the crazy thing that happened was the next day, Lululemon said, UVic, like the university here, their basketball teams need a yoga instructor and it's a really well paying position. Do you want it? And I was like, oh my God, it worked. I asked for what I wanted. I held the faith. I cried it out. I released. I got so clear on what I don't want. And I think that oftentimes people are like, I don't know what I want. And it's like, well, if you know what you don't want, that clarity, that contrast is going to help you create that clarity. And so this is a long-winded way of answering your question, but yes, it feels lonely to choose yourself, but it's not forever.
Mm.
But as you evolve into somebody new and you choose different things for your life and different circles and different opportunities, it could feel lonely, but again, it's your choice to do something about it.
And it's a trade-off, right?
Mhm.
Thanks for sharing. It's like, are you going to stay in the familiar discomfort,
Mhm.
or yeah, or are you going to choose something different? And so you manifested stuff.
Mhm.
Is that all manifesting is? It's just thinking about what you want and saying it out loud.
Yeah, I think it's creating an energetic match. So it's thinking, for me, manifesting is creating a clear image in your mind of what you want and knowing how that makes you feel. And the feeling, I believe, is the most important piece. So, the feeling for me was abundance of opportunities. So maybe abundance or opportunities or to feel useful or whatever it might be. You might be seeking, you might be looking for something, manifesting something. I often, will give an example of like, if you think that you want to be out on a boat or a yacht in the Mediterranean with all the people you love, and yeah, that sounds really fucking awesome. I want that too. And if I think about how that day would feel, I'm like, oh, it would feel so adventurous and it would feel so fun. And I would get to be with my friends and like be at ease and just comfortable. Okay, so I've identified actually what I really want, and it's to feel that way. So then it's my job now to go ham every day, wake up and set the intention of what can I do today to feel adventurous, to feel joyful, to feel abundant without the external experience, because then I am a vibrational match for that or something better to come along. Like it might not be the yacht. It might be something even better. It might be something smaller. It might be something different. But then all of a sudden you come to and you realize like, oh, this is exactly how I wanted to feel. I didn't need the yacht, but what I needed was to feel joy, feel adventurous, feel abundant. And so I think manifesting is creating a thought that creates an image that you can attach to a feeling. And then it's your job to get out there and do what you can each and every day to tap into that feeling. And if
Mm.
you wake up and you're like, I feel useless and tired and exhausted and doubtful and worrisome, that's not going to bring you the yacht, the adventure, the ease, the abundance. Like it just won't, because doubt and worry and stuff are down here. And, I don't know if people are going to see this on video, but it's like that's a lower vibration. And then your joy and your abundance and your adventure is up here on a higher vibration. And everything does carry a vibration or a frequency, and they're just not going to match. And you don't want to bring what you want down. You want to choose to decide, oh, I'm going to take myself and how I feel and bring myself up. And that's a choice.
What if there's a very large gap between where you are and what you want, and it doesn't feel like you can put yourself in the position of feeling what that feels like because it's just so far away?
Mm. Yeah, I think that sometimes we're going to experience things in life that make us feel really low, or really down. And it feels like we're not going to get out of that. It feels like, how am I going to get out of that? And it's a reminder that, or my reminder for people is that you don't have to stay there forever, but there will definitely be lessons in what is happening down here in this low vibrational place. But I also like to remind people that my belief is that, sad doesn't attract sad and fear doesn't attract fear. Like there's not a magnetism down there. It's not vibrating. There's no frequency. So you're not going to, while you're here in your grieving or sadness or sorrow, whatever it might be, you're allowed to be there. And there will come a day where you don't want that. And when you don't want that anymore, when you're like, okay, my pity party's over, or I'm ready to move from grieving to contentment, and know that like content might be a stepping stone to joy or happiness, then you're, again, just like I was describing, you're going to decide, what can I do today to feel that way? Because everything, there's like feeling and being are one category and action and doing are another. So if you want to feel something different so that you be somebody different, then you just get to ask yourself, well, like, what am I going to do today? Or what's going to be my action today to get there? You will climb up to that higher vibration faster than you think. And then on the whole flip side of this conversation, I believe you can get there in the snap of a finger if you attach those good feelings to something that's accessible right away. And so in NLP, I'll often share with people, the way we perceive things is through our five senses. So if you attach something like a song that makes you feel like you could dance and smile and just feel your absolute best self, yes, you might lose somebody or a relationship might end, or you might have like a really hard season in life and you might not even want to put on that song. And you might put on that song and you might think, not today. But there will be a time very soon, probably sooner than you think, where you can use that as your anchor to say, oh yeah, this does make me feel better. And if it's not a song, if it's not something you perceive in an auditory sense, then maybe it's something you see. If you're like, you know what, going to that waterfall or going to that trail in the woods does make me feel better, I'm going to choose to do that. Or tasting this drink, eating that food, smelling that flower, whatever it is, have things that you attach to your five senses that get you to that higher vibrational feeling state fast. It doesn't have to be a long time if you don't want it to be.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about business because you and Kaila take a very different approach to business, and it's, mindset and system.
Mhm.
Can you speak a little bit to that as to how you use all of the stuff that we've just talked about and use that in a business perspective? It could be related to whether you have your own business or what have you, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we will say that we're a mindset first methodology in our company and our business, because what we've realized for ourselves and for every single woman and man that we've had the opportunity to work with over the last 5 years is that it literally comes down to mindset every single time. Every single time, if somebody's like, I've got this systems question, or I can't figure this tech out, or why isn't my funnel working? That launch didn't go the way I thought it did. With a series of 1 to 3 questions in 3 to 5 minutes, we can hear where the limiting belief is. Like, okay, so the tech's not working out for you. What part of you doesn't believe that you can do tech, or that tech isn't needed, or that tech's too hard? Like, I love hearing the story from people that they create for themselves. And I had that story for a very long time of like, I can't do tech. That's not who I am. And then I had to like snap myself out of it and be like, Nicole, we're made to do many things. If you want to know how to learn tech, if you want to be good at the tech in your business, you can. You absolutely can. And so it's really important to us that people come into My Aligned Purpose with an open mind. That mindset plays a huge role in your business. If we have a sales call with somebody or a discovery call and they're really tactical and they're like, I've worked with this business coach and it didn't work, and I've worked with that business coach and it didn't work, right away I'm like, ugh, red flag, because then you're going to come into our program and say, I worked with these two and it didn't work. When it's like, let's look at the common denominator here. And unfortunately, I think for the people that go through business coaches and coaching programs and always say it doesn't work, and they'll say all different sorts of things. I mean, I've heard the full array of things, but it will often be on the system structure side of things, of like, their launch plan doesn't work for me, or the way they do funnels doesn't work for me, or I can't do social media that way. And every single time I can hear right away, like, wow, there's so many limiting beliefs happening here. Like, what would be possible if you believed you could have a thriving business? What would be possible if you believed you could out earn what you made in your salary? And so when we start to ask the questions of like, what would be possible, and allow people to, again, start to expand their vision and infuse that into their business, business gets to be more fun. It doesn't have to be so serious. And business does need to have a serious side to it. Business does need to have structure. Business does need to have some sort of like system or intention to it. Otherwise, it's like the water and the container analogy, right? It's like the structure side of business is the container. It's empty if you don't pour any water into it, and water is the mindset. But if you've got the mindset and you're just like pouring water all over the place and there's no structure to hold it, then it's just going to feel like a waste. So I think what's really awesome is Kaila and I came together, and at first we didn't come together saying we were systems and mindset. We came together saying we were manifesting and money. I'm really into manifesting. Kayla's really into money. And then the more we got to know each other's personalities and realized like we both really like business, I'm like up here floating in the ethers with all the ideas. And Kayla's like, okay, and now let's systematize it so it's a business. And it was such a great fit for us. And I think that that's why we get to be so different in the business coaching space, because we know that people need both. We know that you need mindset, and we know that you need structure, and we know that we get to bring a really great balance of both.
And I would say you bring a lot of fun too. You bring a lot of joy.
Thank you. Yeah, we believe, Kaila and I talk about this often. We both grew up in, fortunately, like loving homes, loving environments, big families, lots of cousins, moms and aunts, and these sorts of things. And we didn't have any like sisterhood wounds. We didn't have any like feeling of being bullied about or gossiped about, and maybe people did talk about me or bully me behind my back or whatever, but I was clueless to it. Like it didn't impact me. And when we came together, we just saw such a need for women to get to feel that way too, because not everybody had the type of upbringing that we had. And we're like, how can we let everybody know, like, you can be so loved and you can have so much fun and you can have all these women who support you, and really just have tried to create that inside of My Aligned Purpose.
I've heard numerous people in your community say this, and I agree wholeheartedly with it, where it's a space where competition and comparison just doesn't exist in any
No.
capacity. It's just, it doesn't compute because it doesn't matter. And it's just, like you said, the most supportive. And there is so much more than enough to go around of all of it, love and success and all of it. And it's just, yeah, it's really, really good.
Thank you. Yeah, we really feel that. And it's really, really important to us. And currently, the mastermind that we are enrolled in is the first place where we felt that way. Every other mastermind, coaching program, coach, community that we've been a part of to, work on our evolution and our up level has felt like, oh my gosh, everybody here is like dog eat dog competition, like who's getting the most leads and who's growing their business. And we're like, this is not how we operate in our community. And so it's really nice and refreshing to see that there are other people out there who community and connection and support is at the forefront of how they're creating their communities. And, I was saying or somebody said to me at She Leads, I think it was Laura Swatlowski, she said, wow, the energy in here is so amazing. It's so like, so, so, so good. And she said, I just forgot what it's like to be inside of a My Aligned Purpose community where there is no gossiping. There's no any of that energy here. And I said, oh my gosh, yeah, imagine somebody here tries to gossip about somebody else in this room. And she said it would boomerang right off of them and back to them. And they would feel uncomfortable because it would not be received in this space. And I thought, oh, yay, because that's exactly how we want it to feel. We want everybody to feel like, I'm so welcome here and I can't wait to welcome the next person in. And how can we all up level together? Because like you said, there's going to be many times in life where you feel lonely. And there's this whole concept of champagne girlfriends. And I learned that very early on as a coach. And champagne girlfriend is the type of girlfriend, which I believe is my line purpose community, where they are going to celebrate you in the moments and times when most people won't. Like, you hit a big promotion, you have a big launch, you do something really fun and exciting in your business or your career, you make a lot of money. And people are like, oh, I don't know, like, is it going to last? Is it sustainable? Is that really what you want to do? Nobody would ever say that inside of My Line Purpose. It's like, fuck yeah, let's pop the champagne together. You don't want to get to the top and be there alone.
And I think too, what's at the root, one of the things that's at the root of this is just getting to live more fully. And so, what is the point of all of this if we don't get joy out of it?
Yeah.
And it's going beyond surface level with others and with yourself. And sometimes that's uncomfortable, and that's okay. That's part of living. But the reward is you truly getting to feel fully
Mm-hmm.
and live
Yeah.
fully. Yeah.
Feel fully, live fully. And then for people like yourself who have responsibilities for the next generation coming up,
Yeah.
like, I believe that children and teenagers and even our peers take on so much more of what we're doing than what we're saying. They're
Mhm.
watching, they're absorbing it, they're a part of it. And so, being, and like you just said, like, what's the point of all of it? Like, you would never want your daughter to question, like, what's the point of living? Why am I here? You want her feeling like, oh my gosh, this is exactly why I'm here. This is my purpose. I feel so alive. And she's going to be able to move so much closer towards that feeling because she's seeing you do it.
I feel like that's a whole other podcast episode. Is I'm like super passionate about it. But
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, I really truly feel like we could talk for another 10 hours. But if people want to know more, or where can they find you? Links will be in the show notes. But where can they find you? And do you have anything coming up that you want people to know about?
Well, it's really easy to find us across the board. It's My Line Purpose everywhere. So mylinepurpose.com is our website, My Line Purpose Instagram, My Line Purpose Facebook, My Line Purpose podcast. If you want to follow me personally, I've just started a new account about 2 months ago. So I'm working on growing that. It's Nicole Crone Mindset. And nothing new in the works coming up. We are always welcoming the right person into Align CEO Method if you feel called. And if you're listening to this, really what our passion is in this season of life and business is showing other people how you can stop exchanging all of your time for money and do something more at scale on a one-to-many model. So you can go to myalignpurpose.com/quiz and take the quiz and see if a course would be good for you, a membership, a group program, and maybe you're not there yet. And if you're not there yet, then you'll get our Skills to Bills free program, and it will walk you through how you can start to think about which one would be for you.
This is a very large question. Um,
Okay, I'm ready.
okay. If there was one message that you wanted to share with the world, what would it be?
Okay. I think it would be right now, just today in this moment, I think it would be if in a year from now or 10 years from now, or when you're 80, and you looked back on today and this season of life, would you be proud of the decisions you're making, the challenges you're working through, the boundaries you're setting? Would you be proud of that? Are you going to move closer towards the life that you really desire in a year, 10 years from now, 40 years from now? Or are you very aware that you're not moving towards your goals you're not taking those actions. And in a year from now, or 10 years from now, or 40 years from now, you're going to have maybe a little bit of disappointment, resentment, or even regret. My advice for you would be, what is one thing you can do today? And oftentimes it's it's a hard conversation. What's the one thing you can do today, or what's the one hard conversation you can have so that you can feel free to take the next step to move closer towards your dream life?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for being you. And thank you for showing up how you do in the world.
Thank you, Kristen. This was so much fun.
All right. Be sure to go and follow along. Have a great week and ciao for now.